On today's episode of the Twedt Show Podcast, we got a lot of things to discuss and talk about. We got some NBA action that's going on right now as I'm recording this late in the third quarter of the Denver and Phoenix Suns game. It is, what is the score? It was 73, 73-57. The Denver Nuggets are up 73-57, about 5:35 left in the third. And Devin Booker is very upset about something. I don't know sure yet. Let me just sort of get an idea. I think he was mad about a call, I think that's it. But anyways, so with that being said, let's get started with today's episode. All right, so we'll talk some NBA basketball first. So I'll start with the Lakers, Warriors, and Heat Nets series because those were played yesterday and they'll be played tomorrow as you're listening to this episode. So just a sort of overall, I guess I'll talk about just sort of an overall view of this of the two series. So I'll start with the Heats and Nets. Knicks, not Nets. Sorry. Heats and Knicks. So, sort of my overall feelings and thoughts about the series so far is, where has this Miami team been all season? Like, where have they been? Like, why are they now just starting playing better basketball? It's a bit mind-boggling because I feel like if you did a lot of preseason talks about, some NBA basketball, you're like, oh, well, the Heat are definitely being the conversation to be going to the Eastern Conference Finals, which they are about to be. They're 1 win away as they're up 3-1. But you didn't really expect them to be an 8 seed where they are right now, an 8 seed. And they're not really playing like an 8 seed either. They're playing some really good basketball. Jimmy Butler is playing at a high level. I mean, we're not shocked by the performance that he's having. But, I mean, it's bizarre that how they got to this position. I'm just trying to figure that part out because, I guess I didn't watch enough Miami Heat's basketball during the season to see. Because when I watch Miami Heat basketball, I just assume it's well, they got a good culture, they got good players, and they'll figure it out sooner or later. They just never really got back on track, and I think it was just because of poor shooting during some time during the season. I think was sort of the cause of their bad, their season or their bad. I don't know, or maybe bad's not the right word, but underachievement, I guess, during this season. That's why obviously when they got in it's also funny because they lost to the Hawks in that 7-8 matchup in the play-in tournament, but then they had to beat the Bulls to get into the playoffs. So we're not even talking about the Heat if they don't even beat the Bulls. And they were up, they were down double digits in that second half, and they just happened to come back and beat the Bulls. So, I mean, it's kind of odd. So, on one hand, you saw them in the play-in game. They're like, oh, they didn't really look all that great. But then when you see them when they get in the playoffs, for some reason, somebody just turn on the switch. I don't know. Maybe it's sort of like, when the Golden State Warriors, when they turn on a switch, it's like, well, they're kind of cruising through the regular season. Once playoffs start, they just flip on the switch. I feel like that's sort of what Miami Heats are doing right now. Is they just flip the switch on to playoff mode, and Jimmy Butler's just having one of those great playoff runs he's having right now. I mean, as for the Knicks, though, they've had a great season so far. Now, granted, the season and the series is not over yet. They can still win Game 6 at home in the Garden, or not in the Garden, but in Madison Square Garden, I should say. I don't know. Did they call it the Garden there as they are? Or the Boston, in Boston, they call it TD Garden. So I guess in New York, they can call it the Garden. So we'll call it the Garden for now, unless somebody would like to correct me. And either way, the Knicks can win at home, force this would be Game 5. So what game are we on for the Heat and Knicks? No, this would be Game 6, right? No. This is game 5, right? Yeah, because they've only played 4 games. So in game 5, so then game 6 we go back to Miami. Yeah. So in game 5, heading back for, the force of game 6 and, having to go back to Miami, the force of game 7, in game 7, anything can happen. But I think most of us think that this series is pretty much over for the Knicks. I mean, I'm sure they'll probably win game 5. That would be typical fashion, as the Knicks. But I just felt like that for some reason this series is that Julius Randle is just hasn't. What's something about Julius Randle is hasn't really played all that well during like the playoffs in general. Because like once the playoff starts, so he's a regular season guy and he plays fantastic during the regular season. He's reliable, durable, and he's like an all-star, right? And then once the playoff starts, it's like, where's Julius Randle? Why is he taking these tough shots? Why is he shooting that? Why is he not playing well? What is he doing? You just have all these questions of Julius Randle, and don't get me wrong, still a really good player, but he's just not really performing well at a high level during the playoffs. And it's just like one of those weird things. It's like, is it because of the bright lights and it's the playoffs? Like, why is Julius Randle not performing at a high level? Why is he not taking that next step? If you're averaging, let's say that Julius, I don't remember what he was averaging during the regular season, but I'm sure he was averaging like 20-ish points. So let's say he was averaging 21. In the playoffs, you should be, if you're a star like him, you should be averaging, in the playoffs around like 26, 28 points. You got to take that next step, take that next level of, being a star and a superstar, from being a star to a superstar in these types of games and these types of high intensity games in the playoffs and all this other stuff. So, I mean, Jalen Brunson's still playing at a high level. It doesn't matter what he's doing. But a little bit with Josh Hart is that Josh Hart's an interesting one because I think Josh Hart's a really good player for them. Like, he's solid. Don't get me wrong. He's a really solid player. But he does a couple, like, he does good things, but he also doesn't really do, I don't know. I don't really want to say anything bad about Josh Hart because, like, I didn't really watch much of what game was it? What was the previous game? Game 4, I didn't really watch much of game 4 because what was I doing in game? Why couldn't I watch that game? I was doing something. I don't remember but I think it was something important, or I just didn't feel like watching the game. I mean, I had it sort of in the background, and I would flip it back and forth. I think I was watching something else, and then I was flipping back and forth to see what was going on. And I was, as the game was going on, it wasn't really much of a contest. So yeah. So I'm projecting that this series will probably end in 6. Most likely it will end tomorrow. But I wouldn't be shocked if the Knicks happen to win on game 5 and then force a game 6, and then Miami will win game 6 and go to the Eastern Conference Finals to go up against the winner of the 76ers and the Sixers game, which we'll get to in just a moment. But first, we got to talk about the Lakers and Warriors. So the Lakers and Warriors are also, as the Lakers are also the 7th seed. And it's also kind of, they're also on the same boat with Miami. They almost lost to the Timberwolves to have to go play the Thunder in the last spot for the last spot in the playoffs. So it's like one of those weird things. It's like the Lakers are good, but we've seen them play really bad basketball. So I don't really understand it. Cause like, if you look at the roster, like when they were, when the season started, you go look at that roster, you go, this team is no good whatsoever. It's not good whatsoever. It's terrible. Not good. They were all saying from the beginning of the season, they need to get rid of Russell Westbrook. And maybe Russell Westbrook would finally start playing better basketball with the new head coach. Wasn't really much the case. And then, they made some trades at the deadline. They got rid of Russ and Patrick Beverley and a couple other players. And they got like Jared Vanderbilt and Dennis Schroeder. I don't remember if he was part of a trade deadline, but I feel like he was. I can't remember what team he was even on before he went to the Lakers, but they got him. They got Rui Hachimura. And they got who else did they get? They got Mo Bamba, but he's not really playing. They got who's the other guy? Looney Walker Jr. the 4th, or not Junior. I don't know why I said Junior. I think I was listening to a radio show today, and they have like an inside joke about calling people like juniors after, if you're a 4th, they just call you like a junior 4th or whatever. But anyways, that's neither here or there. But Jun- Looney Walker the fourth. I think, wasn't he on the Spurs just a while ago? Did they get him in the trade deadline? I don't remember where some of these players even come from during the trade deadline. I don't remember the Rui one, the Jared Vanderbilt one, and the D'Angelo Russell from the Timberwolves, which was also it was crazy. I genuinely thought, I was a bit confused when they got Jared Vanderbilt. I was like, wait, wasn't he just on Minnesota? I got confused with the teams during the whole trade deadline. I was like, wait, so yeah. So they got all these players, and then they started playing a little bit better, but then, they didn't really move up that much. But obviously they became a better defensive team. They shot the ball slightly better, but again, they're not great. They're not a fantastic 3-point shooting team, but they're pretty decent. They're okay. They have their moments. Like Austin Reeves and Rui Hachimura have their moments of shooting the ball very, very well. Maybe not as much as Austin Reeves right now, but he still actually had a pretty decent game the other night. But Rui hasn't had that much of a good of a game since like that one game against Memphis. So I feel like Rui needs to start getting back into a groove. And obviously you got Anthony Davis, who had like the most inconsistent player for the like past like a week or so. For like every other game, he'd have like one game he had 30 points, the next game he'd have like 11 or 15 points. The next game he had 30, and the next game he'd have 10. He'd always overachieve and then underachieve, and then he'd have like 30 points and then he'd have 10 points. It's like, come on, man. And then now he's finally getting back to the back-to-back games where he had actually great performances by Anthony Davis. And then LeBron, I mean, there isn't really much to say about LeBron. We all know he's one of the greatest players of all time, blah, 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 all-time leading scorer, blah, 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 blah. We got it. But you know what's crazy about one of the games is that he didn't, like, for an entire quarter, LeBron James did not shoot the ball, which is a bit shocking. I was like, it didn't really cross my mind until the announcers like mentioned it. It's like, hey, LeBron hasn't shot the ball. I was like, wait, LeBron hasn't shot the ball yet? And I feel like it's the what's the word I'm looking, what's the phrase or words or things I'm trying to say is that I feel like at this stage of LeBron's career right now is that he's not really being aggressive of a playmaker. He's just sort of contributing, and then when he wants to shoot, he'll shoot. I mean, he's not gonna be like the old LeBron James of the Cavaliers and Miami Heat, where he just shoots it about 30 to 40 times and we'll just be like, yep, that's LeBron. You can't really stop him. But I feel like he's sort of declining a little bit on the whole shooting a bit. And I'm not trying to, and like that's stupid to say because he's the all-time leading scorer, Chan. You can't say he's doing a terrible job shooting. Well, he sort of is in a sense, but not really. But that's neither here or there. I'm not going to criticize about LeBron James' shooting, but if you really like watching the games a little bit, you go, oh, well, LeBron's not shooting the ball effectively, I should say. Maybe he's not shooting the ball effectively, but he's still scoring at a high level, obviously, because he's LeBron James. So he can get any shot he wants to, but he probably should take a little bit less threes than he probably should have. I mean, he's shooting a little bit too many threes, in my opinion. I don't think he should be in that ball that well. Let's talk about Warriors. So the Warriors are now in a deficit 3-1. Obviously, the Warriors were up 3-1 against LeBron when they played them when when LeBron was on the Cavs and all that stuff. So is Steph Curry about to pull off the LeBron and come back from 3-1 deficit? I don't think LeBron's ever blown a 3-1 deficit. So I mean, there's always a first. Now there's a video going around of there's like Corgi, who I've seen his videos before, where his owner will toss him like a inflatable ball, and he has like trash cans, and like he'll project on who's going to win all of that. And so far, the Corgi has been right so far. He projected the Lakers would be up 3-1, but then the Warriors would come back and win in 7. So if you're a Lakers fan, you better hope that Corgi isn't right. But if you're a Warriors fan, you better keep praying that the Corgi gods or the basketball gods agree with that Corgi and the Warriors will win in 7. Now, so the game will be in game 5. So we'll obviously go back to game 5 for the Warriors, and they will be at home. They'll probably win that game, most likely. And then Mike Greenberg came with this sort of ridiculous thing, but I get where he's coming from. But at the same time, this is completely different from baseball. So he basically was suggesting that the Lakers should sit their starters. It's sort of like in baseball, if you want your particular starting pitcher to play for a particular game, say once. So let's say he started game 3, and then you wanted him playing like in game 4 or 5 to close out the series or something like that. You would rest him and then never play him until like, a certain game. Or, he was using sort of a baseball reference, which again, I get where he's coming from, but it's a stupid idea. You don't rest starters in a game 5. Like, you want to close the series, just close out the series. If you believe your team's going to win the game. It's not hard. You don't just rest your starters. You just don't put LeBron James and Anthony Davis on the bench and not play them. You got to, if you're winning the series, you win the series. This, again, it was a horrible idea, but that's Mike Greenberg for you. It's just coming out with these silly ideas sometimes. Oh, Mike. I mean, what are we doing? I don't know. I get his idea. I got the idea, but again, that's a really dumb idea. Again, you do not rest your starters in the NBA playoffs. If you're going to win the series, like, I get it. You're going to rest your starters right now and then win game 6 and home. But what if you don't win game 6? Oh, you got to go to game 7 then. Oh, what? You're just, it's stupid. It's a stupid idea. Stupid idea. So anyways, Klay Thompson, was watching the games and all that. Klay Thompson has his moments. Like game 3, he had an awesome game, shoot the ball very well. Game 4, not as much. And then, some of the other cast members of the Warriors need to slightly, perform a bit better. In particular, Jordan Poole. I feel like at this point during this series, if I'm Steve Kerr, I don't know if I can play Jordan Poole the rest of the series. I just think he's liable. He isn't really playing that well. He's not shooting the ball well. He's liable on defense. It's just one of those things. Like, I got to tell Jordan, like, hey, we're just simply not going to play you this series. And not because we think you're horrible or anything. I mean, I wouldn't tell him personally that he's terrible or anything like that, but you just got to be like honest with him. Be like, hey, we just think that you just need to just watch on the bench. Like, you just got to, help us and cheer and all this other stuff. You got to be like a cheerleader. We just got to play someone else, because like what you're doing right now is not helping us win basketball games. So I don't know if Steve Kerr will do that. I highly doubt it. He'll keep playing Jordan Poole, but at the same time, maybe he'll just reduce his minutes. I think you got to reduce his minutes at some point. Like, he's not shooting the ball. He's just not playing well. It's simple as that. I don't know what the Warriors should do with him. Like, let's say, he had the great performances during the playoffs last year, and that's why he got the that deserving contract. And then now he's just playing bad. Like, what happened from last year's finals to where we're at right now? Like, it's just one of those weird things. Like, what happened? Jordan Poole, what happened? It's just very, very odd to see what happened to Jordan Poole's trajectory, because he was going up and now he's slightly taking a little bit of a dive on his trajectory of his great career. But now I guess we'll have to see if he either can maybe finally get a bounce back game and finally plays well. I don't know. I highly doubt it, just the way we're seeing things being played out, but who knows? Maybe Jordan Poole can figure it out. But, Steph Curry will continue to play well, and I highly doubt, he will, play bad. But yeah, so let's see. What was the other? All right, so we'll get to, what was the last one? So we'll do the Sixers and Celtics series. So the 76ers are currently up 3-2 on the Celtics, and the game game 5 just ended this is game 5. I keep getting confused on which games we're on. So game 5 was tonight, and from start to finish, the 76ers just dominated the Celtics. I didn't think it was even much of a game. The Celtics made their runs and they kept it within close in that first half, and I was like, okay, this is going to be a battle. And then the second half, the 76ers just kind of kept putting it on. It was like, all right, the Celtics are just playing really good basketball right now tonight. And also Embiid had an amazing game. Tyrese Maxey, shout out Tyrese Maxey. I knew from last year's playoffs, I knew this guy was going to be special. And he's becoming a star in this league. I think he's really going to be special for that 76ers organization for the future to come. I think they need to keep him for a long time. I think he's definitely the future and all that stuff for him and Embiid. Probably James Harden won't be the he's the now, but he won't be the future. And Maxi's the future. So him and Embiid are going to be definitely the future for the next probably 5 years. But yeah, Maxi's a really special player. Pay that man now. I would just pay him now. So that way you don't have to. I mean, I guess I don't know. I don't know who else you need to pay on the Sixers. But yeah, 76ers are. I mean, it's crazy because like in game 2 and 3, we saw James Harden play really bad basketball. And then in game 4, he played better basketball. And then today, what was his stat line today? Stat line today's was. Let's see. James Harden had. Let's look at the box score here. Well, Tatum had like 30. I knew that. Let's see. Harden had 17. He was 4 of 8 from the field, 1 of 2 from 3. Had 8 rebounds, 10 assists. So I mean, he didn't really. I mean, he affected the game. Like I don't know. I guess he didn't score that many as much, but obviously PJ Tucker, who scored 3 points. Either like I think there was like some crazy stat of like PJ Tucker like doesn't score any points, they're like undefeated. But if he scores like more or something, like I think it was like I don't know. But if he scores a lot of points, then they usually lose, which is kind of odd. So I guess PJ Tucker just can't score that many points. So he only had 3 points tonight. Tabert Harris had 16. And then you had Embiid at 33, Maxey with 30. Like I said, Maxey was 10 of 21 from the field, 6 of 12 from 3. He had 7 rebounds and 3 assists. And then let's see, House had 10 points, so that's nice. You had Melton with 4 points. Let's see, for the Boston Celtics, Tatum had 36. Marcus Mott at 14. Now Horford had 0. He was 0 for 7 from the field. Actually, I didn't really realize he was sucking that bad. I mean, I knew he was missing some shots, but like, dang, I didn't realize he was 0 for 7. That's crazy. You had Derek White, who was 2 for 6. He had 7 points. Jaylen Brown had 24 points, 9 of 16. So here's my thing on Jaylen Brown. I think he's a really good player. He's a talented player. But I don't think he's really a good fit for the Sixers, or not for the Sixers, but the Celtics. For some reason, he's just not taking enough shots that he probably should be taking. He only took 16 shots. If you're a talented player like Jaylen Brown is, I feel like you should be taking more than 16 shots, my guy. Now, I understand that that Jason Tatum is the best player on the team, but something's got to be said about Jaylen Brown's usage rate on this team. And there was some rumors going around like last year when the Celtics were struggling a lot, and they're like, oh, maybe Jason Brown and Tatum can't really coexist. And now I feel like we're back on the same boat again. Maybe I'm completely wrong. Maybe I'm reading the room wrong. But in my opinion, I don't think that you can. I don't think Jaylen Brown should be on the Celtics next year. I think you got to trade him, and that's just my opinion. I could be wrong. I think maybe you could keep him. Maybe you can keep this work. But I think that the talent that Jaylen Brown has, I don't think he should be on the same team with Jason Tatum. Now, I think those two should probably stay together because one, Tatum needs another player like Jaylen Brown, but I don't think Jaylen Brown needs a player like Jason Tatum. I don't know. I feel like Jaylen Brown could be a player like Jason Tatum if he was on a different team. That's just me, though. It's just one of those weird things. Like Grant Williams, what happened to him? Wasn't he pretty effective like last year? But now he's just not effective. Maybe it's the matchups. I don't know. And then you got like Robert Williams. I feel like he's not really doing much on the defensive end. You got Brogdon, who was a nice addition during this offseason. I feel like he's not really doing much, but again, I could be wrong. I didn't really watch too much Celtics basketball, but I feel like I said, you gotta if say the Sixers do win the series in 6 on would be Thursday, I believe. It would be the next game. Let me check. When's the next game? The next game would be on Thursday, 6:30 on ESPN. So game 6, I think, let's say they do win. One, there probably should be some slight conversation as to what the roster should look like. As one, I've always been in the propose that Marcus Smart should probably not be on the roster. Because, like, if you're Jaylen Brown, and I'm going to mention this game, what was it? Game 3. I don't understand why Jason Tatum was passing the ball to Marcus Smart. Now, the first time I understand, he's wide open. Second time, again, why are you passing the ball up? If you're that guy, if you are the number one option, you have to shoot the ball. You are the main guy. Like, you're option number one. Marcus Smart, I just love saying Marcus Smart because he's on the Celtics and he's from Boston. Well, he's not really from Boston, but but you can't pass the ball. Like, I understand if you're trying to make a play. But again, you don't pass the ball up, dude. You are that guy. You are him. Right? If you're that guy, if you're that dog, if you're him, and all these other phrases we like to say now about certain players, you got to shoot the ball. Just shoot it. Again, I understand it. I understand the first one that he passed it to Marcus Smart, but the second one, again, why are you passing the ball with Marcus Smart? And if I'm a Sixers guy, I'm like, yep, you shoot it, Marcus. Go right ahead. You shoot it. Go right ahead. You shoot that ball, baby. But yeah, I'm not crazy about this whole Celtics roster, even though they were like besides the Bucks, they were probably like one of the top 3 best teams in the league. But I feel like sort of this game sort of like give us some thoughts. Like, their body language was pretty bad. I didn't really like their body language, and they were down most of the game. They couldn't really get it. When they were capitalized and cut it within maybe 10, and then the Sixers would come right back and go on a run and go get the lead back up by like 16. So it was just like they got some momentum, and then the momentum's gone. Now their body language is down. They're down. They don't really care. And I feel like if Marcus Smart was going to be like the rallying troop guy, and it was just everybody was just like down and slumping, and he's like trying to rally the troops. If I was one of the players, I'd be like, dude, shut up. We're down 16. We ain't coming back. And I just like would tune him out and be like, yeah, whatever. Yeah, okay, yep. We got this, Marcus. Yep, you're right. We're going to come back. And I'd be like, I can't believe this guy just keeps doing all this shenanigans. But I'm sure nobody was really thinking that. But I know if I was like one of those guys, I'd probably be thinking of that. But yeah. All right, so now let's get to the Suns and Nuggets. As of right now, the game. What is the score? So the score is 104-80 with 7 minutes left in the fourth quarter, and yeah, so this game is going to Game 6. Honestly, this series is gonna go to like 7. And if I'm being completely honest, so the Nuggets will go back to Phoenix for Game 6, as the Suns will try to tie the series again to force a Game 7. Let's see, what's the box score looking like so far? And then we'll recap some of the other games. All right, so Durant's got 24. Devin's got 22, but he's not shooting the ball very well like he was in Game 3 and 4. He's shooting the ball 6 of 17, 2 of 5 from 3. Kevin's 10 and 22, 0 for 3 from 3. They're not shooting the 3 ball at all very well. The Phoenix Suns, they're 6 of 20 from 30. That's 30% from the field. It's not good. And the Nuggets, they're shooting it a lot better. They're shooting it at 48% from 3, 12 of 25 as of right now. 48% from field, 48% from the field, and 48% from 3. That's pretty solid. It's pretty solid. So as the sort of recap the series in general. So the first 2 games went to the Nuggets' ways. The Nuggets were pretty dominant in those first 2 games. I felt like won by 10 that first game, and then the next game they let's see, hold on, where are the other? No, wait, here we go. All right, I was thrown off by this one. Okay, so yeah, here we go. So Game 2. Or no, wait. Yeah, this is Game 2. So they won by 2. They won by 10 in Game 2. Then they, the Suns came back in Game 3, and that's when Devin Booker had like 50-something? What was he? What did he have? He had 47, and then Durant had 39. But the Nuggets, their players had 30. Murray had 32. Jokic had 30, and Porter had 21. They still lost that game, even though it was a really close game. It was a really fun, exciting game. Last night, too, was also exciting. Just some crazy offense. Like, Jokic had 53 points, balling out. Murray had 28. Both Durant and Booker had 36. And then Shamit. What's funny about his name? You can, when he shoots the ball, if you're an opposing team and he shoots the ball and he makes it, you go, Shamit. He's like, instead of saying damn it, you just like Shamit. That's kind of a funny last name if you really think about it. It's like instead of just saying damn it, you can just go sham it, or like shit, or it's either like damn it or shit. It's like sham it. But yeah, I mean I think this series is definitely going 7. Now I don't know who's going to win in Game 7. I feel like it would be a toss up, but obviously the game's going to be in Denver, so Denver's going to have a slight advantage because they've been one of the best home teams in the NBA. But when you have Kevin Durant and Devin Booker on your team, you always have a shot of winning in a Game 7. So I mean, you also have a chance of them going off for like 30 or 50 points. So, anyways, as for everything else, I think that's pretty much it for baseball, or not baseball, but NBA playoffs. So let's talk a little bit about we'll talk about this one first, and I'll get to some other things. So there's been some very interesting gambling accusations going on in college athletics. So we had the Alabama baseball coach who probably not allegedly, but he did gamble on his own team, but he didn't do it. He had someone else bet for him, I believe. I can't remember the whole story, but either way, he told a friend in Indiana to go bet on his team because he took out 3 of his starters, and then the better one put so much money on it. That's a red flag. Hello. Nobody's going to bet on, nobody's really putting $10,000 on college baseball. Like if you put 10, they're not going to really raise a red flag, but the person put like a crap ton of money. That's good to raise some red flags. It's like, okay, what do they know that we don't know that they know? So that's a red flag. So then doing some investigating, the Alabama coach bet on the game, I can't remember if he bet on it, but either way, he was involved with gambling. You can't do that if you're in the NCAA. You can't be betting on games. Unacceptable. You're not Pete Rose. You can't be betting on games. But no, and then in a couple of days later, he got fired from Alabama for gambling. And now, in the home state of where I'm from, in Iowa, both Iowa and Iowa State athletics are being investigated for gambling activities. Now, I believe so. What I've gathered here is that the players from the athletes that were involved did not bet on their games, did not fix, and not point shaves or any of that. They did not do that they're aware of right now. But I think they're looking at some underage betting on games. I believe on just maybe some basketball games right now, or maybe they did it during NFL season, or just something that they're not technically allowed to. Even though, in my opinion, again, you're not. I totally agree. Do not bet on your games. Do not blah blah blah. Do not bet on NCAA games. If you're a collegiate athlete, do not bet on any other collegiate athlete sports. Especially if if an Iowa State football player bets on Iowa State basketball, he probably has a bit more info because he probably has seen those guys and all that other stuff. So that's a no. But if a player of any sport wants to bet on let's say a basketball player wants to bet on the NFL, I feel like that'd be all right. As long as you're the legal age of 21, which is the case, you have to be at least 21 to bet. I don't really see the problem in that. But again, you should not be betting on your games or anything like that, or betting on the sport that you're in or something like that. So I believe the first one that came across that everybody's mind was a couple of baseball players at the University of Iowa baseball program were accused of gambling. And then the number went up once they started hearing or started investigating more. There was about 25 more players from Iowa that were involved. And then there was a couple players here at Iowa State, probably I think, let me look here. I want to make sure I get these numbers right because I don't want to give out any false information. So let me just go to this person's Twitter page real quick. Here we go. All right, here we go. Let's do some investigating real quick. All right, so let's see. Here we go. So yeah, a statement from Iowa State Athletics. The Iowa State University and its Department of Athletics is aware of online sports wagering allegations involving approximately 15 of our active student athletes from sports of football, wrestling, and track and field in violations of NCAA rules. The university has notified the NCAA and will take appropriate action to resolve these issues, which I've been listening to a lot of local radio to understand what's going on and get their see what the reporters are saying. Is basically that let's see, what was the other ones? Let's see, where's the Iowa one? What's the number at Iowa? See if I can find that one real quick. Where's that number? Here we go. So there was like 2 or 3 for baseball, and then this includes 26. So the University of Iowa released a statement detailing the sports wagering investigation timelines and statements. And this includes 26 current student athletes from baseball, football, men's basketball, men's track and field, and wrestling. So, yeah, there's a lot of sports gambling going on here in the state of Iowa, and a lot of, illegal sports gambling. Again, I do not have a problem with them betting on the NFL or NBA as long as, again, they're the legal age. You can't be betting if you're underage. Wink, wink. But again, that's neither here or there. But, I feel like the NCAA should probably change the rules a little bit. I mean, I feel like it just depends. And I was listening to a show which they said if it was something like, even that, if you're 21, even though you are legally to bet, and the NCAA doesn't want you to bet on games because if they have a championship game of that sport, I was like, it was sort of a valid reason, because like if you're a football player and there's a championship game, you want to bet on the NFL, bet on the Super Bowl, you can, because it's a football. I don't know. What I was hearing is it made sense in my, what I was listening to. It was like, okay, it makes sense, I guess. So the only sports they were really allowed to bet on is like USC, trying to think, like USC, because like there are certain sports they probably could have technically bet on. I don't know. Maybe they were betting on there. I feel like most of them were probably betting on like USC game, or not USC, but UFC, like a lot of fights or something like that. Like I guess like martial arts and boxing, horse racing probably, because there's I don't think there's a champion. I don't think NCAA has a like horse racing thing. So, and then they could probably go to like a casino and do like blackjack. I think that would probably be okay. I think that's legal, but again, I could be wrong about that. So yeah, I guess now that some of this shit's going down here in Iowa, and now we have the Alabama coach, I feel like a lot of that, a lot of athletics are going to start going through their student athletes and be like, hey, you better not be gambling. They're going to be doing a lot of seminars these next couple of weeks, be like, remember that you cannot gamble. So it'll be very interesting to see how the within the next like week or two, see what information we get about these players or these athletes and stuff like that, see what the punishment is. I think it should just probably be a slap on the wrist. Maybe you give them a little bit of a suspension, not like a whole year or anything like that crazy. Maybe like 2 games, maybe 3 at most, 2 to 3 at most for their respectable sport. But I don't think it should be a whole year or anything like that. But again, that's the NCAA's dealing, even though the NCAA is a sort of a joke. But yeah, I mean, it's just one of those things. Like I said, I generally do not have a problem if a football player wants to bet on the Super Bowl or NFL games, and I don't have a problem with the basketball player betting on an NBA basketball. But again, I don't want you betting on your own games, because then that's when things turn out being bad. So yeah. All right. So let's move on here to a couple of things I wanted to talk about. So one thing on here that I did put, and we'll talk about it here, is LeBron James' son has committed to USC. So Bronny James is now a Trojan. So it's been like months, or like it's been a while since. I mean, he was probably like the last one in his class like committed to his school, and now he finally is going to USC. And a lot of people are thinking that maybe he's go to Ohio State, Memphis, some of these certain schools with like, either LeBron's friends with, or like Michigan State, or just, schools that most likely would get him, or Oregon. I feel like in all honesty, he was going to go to a Nike school, wasn't going to go to an Honor Armour school, but it is what it is. So, so it is pretty cool though that Bronny James Jr. or LeBron James Jr., aka Bronny James, is the first James to go to college, because obviously we all know LeBron James did not go to college, and neither did his wife, I guess. Which I guess she didn't really need to, because her husband was going to be an NBA player. So, but yeah, I mean, I don't think LeBron James. I think he was talking about it in the press conference. I think his mother went to college, but like was there for like a couple of weeks and then had to leave because she had LeBron James at a very young age, and she had to take care of him, and she wasn't able to go to class or something like that at community college. So again, once again, yeah. So Bronny James, a Trojan. Now, I think they also just got Dennis Rodman. I was just seeing something on social media like earlier today that they also got like Dennis Rodman's kid to go to USC. He was transferring in from Washington State, which again, I had no idea Dennis Rodman even had I knew of his daughter who's on the USA team for soccer. I knew that, but I didn't realize he even had a son. I'm not shocked. The man had sex with a lot of people. He just did. He was a wild man back in the 90s, and so I'm not really shocked, but I mean, it is what it is. But you also have obviously him now, Bronny James Jr. You got a couple other like very highly touted recruits. So I think people are going to be very interested to watch USC basketball this year. I mean, there will be a lot of games. Myself and a lot of basketball fans will be watching late night basketball on the West Coast to watch Bronny James kick ass. So I mean, ESPN will be definitely for sure be making sure that all the USC games will be televised. Even if they're not playing anybody good, they will make sure that it's on television. Like they could be playing like what's like a no-name school? Like they could be playing like Grand Canyon. They could be playing like Northern Arizona. You name it, like whatever school they're going to be playing, whatever games are going to be on this year, they're going to be on ESPN no matter what. Doesn't matter the time or day. They're going to make sure LeBron James Jr.'s son's on television, because everybody's going to want to watch LeBron James Jr. or even Fox, I guess, because sometimes Pac-12 games were on Fox. So either way, Fox or ESPN are going to make sure that LeBron James Jr.'s son is on television. LeBron James' son is on television. So yeah. So congratulations, Bronny, on going to USC. But speaking of college, I am technically a graduate. I gotta take one course left, and I'm like 90. I'm basically like I'm not 95% graduated. Finally, I don't know. I walked and did the whole thing, did all that stuff. But I'm like one class short. I'm gonna take probably should take it this summer. They said I could walk. I was like, okay, as long as you take the class this summer, we'll let you walk. I was like, okay. So, yeah. So I have like the thing, but obviously I won't get the degree until that math class is done. So I eventually got to take that math class to earn my degree. I really don't want to take a math class, and I probably should have taken it a long time ago. But it is what it is. It's one of the things like when you're a college kid, you just keep pushing back certain classes so you don't either. In all honesty, you should probably, if you're going to be taking, I feel like you should probably take some of the hard ones, some of the, at least not like go crazy hard, not take all the hard ones now. Like when you're like a freshman or sophomore, take like one or two. And then when you're like a senior, take all the easy ones. So, but then again, it all depends on what your philosophy is on taking courses and stuff like that. So yeah, I'm like 95% graduated from college. So I got the other 5% is just that stupid math class that sometime next week, I should probably decide if I'm taking that class or not. So, yep. Or I could just take it in the summer, even though I probably shouldn't. Should just take it this summer. So, yeah. All right. What was the other thing? There was like other personal stuff. Like I got to find a new apartment. I'm still looking at that, but we're making progress on the whole apartment thing. So, obviously, my roommate who's not here, that I'm currently now borrowing his room again since he's not here, and he was all moved out. So, using his room again. But yeah, making progress on the whole apartment situation. So we'll see how that goes. I mean, I got a list of apartments that I think we'll probably most likely be living in, but yeah, we got to, do some finalizations, and probably, I said within the next week-ish, we'll probably have a final decision. That way we can sign the lease and everything. We don't have to worry about it. And then I also have to contact him and be like, hey, I found the place. Now I just need you to confirm that you will be coming back. So, if he signs the lease, he has to come back, right? So, I mean, he could just sign the lease and just show up whenever. It's sort of what he did last time. But he had some family stuff and all that. So, yeah, Sean, if you happen to be listening to this episode, or if you happen to see this video at any point, please come back. Like I said, please come back. So yeah. Let's see. Anything else I wanted to talk about? All right, let's do a quick update on the Nuggets and Denver game. So there's about a minute 30 left, and the Nuggets are up 18. And the Nuggets are gonna take Game 5 and go back to Phoenix up 3-2 to close out the series in Phoenix. All right, so Shamit. He's got the ball now. He passes it to Wendell. Wendell with the layup. It's good. Now they're down 16. Phoenix is making a comeback. Watch out. But no, yeah. I think that's really about it for today's episode. I got all the things I wrote down on my notes. So yeah. But no. All right, one quick thing and then we'll wrap up here. So I think starting next week, I will get myself on a schedule of releasing pod episodes. So I think we're going to go to 2 a week. For sure, Tuesdays and Thursdays, I will have episodes out. I think that's the plan. I'm going to try myself to hold myself accountable. If not, I know one person I'm going to trust this one person to keep me slightly accountable. So, Ben, if you're listening to this, Ben Lehman, I'm talking to you, Ben. If you're listening to this episode, I need you to text me on Monday and make sure I'm recording an episode. And I will probably remember, but I want you to hold me accountable for the listeners. This is all up to you, Ben. So if there's no episode on Tuesday, I'm blaming it on you. So yeah, I'm sorry, Ben. It's the rules. Since you have been my day one guy, you gotta hold me accountable for these 2 a day episodes a week. So yeah. Obviously, this will be out on Wednesday, but I think next week I'm going to do 2 a week, Tuesdays and Thursdays. I think those are pretty good weeks, right? So I think those will be ideal dates. And when I was thinking about doing like picking dates, I knew for sure I was going to do 2. I just needed to pick dates. I think Tuesdays and Thursdays are pretty solid ones. So I thought about doing ones on Fridays, but I think people probably won't listen most on Fridays, but it depends. But I think Thursday's a good one. Tuesdays for sure. People. When I was starting this whole podcast thing, people, was reading articles like Tuesdays are the perfect days to release an episode. I'm like, okay, I guess we'll do Tuesdays, but I never really I don't think I really posted that much on Tuesdays that often, but yeah, I think that's pretty much it. All right, so it just went final 118-102. The Denver Nuggets lead the series 3-2. Oh man, this is gonna be an exciting series. All right. Let me look at my notes real quick just to make sure we got everything covered. All right, we covered NBA basketball. We covered me graduating. We covered finding an apartment, the whole gambling allegations, and LeBron James Jr. going to USC. I think that's pretty much it. Shout out. I want to give one quick shout out. So, shout out to my brother. It was his birthday yesterday. So, shout out Chase. Happy birthday, dude. Even though his birthday's already passed, but happy birthday again for being a doofus in my life and being sometimes a pain in my ass. But, that's what brothers are supposed to be. Sometimes it's a pain in the butts. But, we all love them. Sometimes, it depends on the day and what they do to us. But no, yeah. All right. So I think that's going to be it for today's episode. Like I said, you always can follow the show on social media. I'm not going to repeat it. You all know by now, how to find the show on social media. Just look in the description, just click the links, go from there. You can always find this episode on whatever platform you're listening to this on. Apple, Spotify, Google Play, iHeart, you name it. You can find it almost anywhere. It's not too hard to find. Tell your friends about it. Tell your family members. Tell somebody who likes sports. They're like, hey, you like sports? You should listen to this guy. He has such great takes, even though sometimes I get ridiculed by my like freshman in college cousin who ridicates me sometimes on some of my sports takes. I'm like, okay, dude, calm down. Because like never mind, I'm not going to go on a rant here about it, but I will say that sometimes it's a group chat, and like I'll have some of my sports takes on the group chat sometimes, on a group chat that I'm in with him, and he's like, dude, stop being biased. I'm like, dude, it's a group chat. Chillax. He's like, dude, you got to take your bias out if you're going to be a sports guy. I'm like, I can take my bias. It's like, no, you can't. You clearly can. Because like we're having an argument about like Bears and Packers or something like that. So I was like, dude, it's a freaking group chat. Calm down. I can take my biases out on whenever I feel like to. But no, yeah, he was having one of his moments about it. So it is what it is. So, all right. With that being said, I will see you guys on Tuesday. I'm gonna remember to have an episode on Tuesday. Hopefully there'll be some fun stuff to happen by then. Maybe heck, I might even post one on Friday. Who knows? Probably not. But anyways, I'll see you guys next time.